The temperature hit 95 degrees that June afternoon when my mother-in-law, Victoria, delivered the blow that would break my 8-year-old daughter's heart. We stood in her immaculate backyard, the crystal blue swimming pool gleaming behind her like a mirage, while she looked down at my children with the kind of disdain usually reserved for unwanted pests. "I just don't think it's appropriate," she said, adjusting her designer sunglasses. "After all, you chose to live in that area." She waved her manicured hand dismissively. "We have certain standards to maintain here." My daughter, Emma, clutched her new swimsuit to her chest, the tags still attached. We'd spent weeks saving for it, picking it out together at Target. My 5-year-old son, Lucas, stood beside her, confusion written across his small face as he watched his cousin splash and played in the pool behind their grandmother. "Victoria," I started, trying to keep my voice steady, "they're your grandchildren. The neighborhood we live in doesn't change that." She laughed, that artificial sound I'd grown to dread over the past decade of being married to her son. "Oh, Sarah, don't be dramatic. It's not personal. It's just that after you and Michael decided to move to Pine Grove." She paused, her lips curling slightly. "Well, we have to think about what the neighbors would say. This is Somerset Heights, after all." I felt Emma's small hand slip into mine, trembling slightly. Lucas pressed against my leg, his earlier excitement replaced by confusion and hurt. Behind Victoria, I could see my nieces and nephews playing Marco Polo, their laughter carrying across the perfectly manicured lawn. Their mothers, my sisters-in-law, Jennifer and Deanne, pretended not to notice the scene unfolding by the pool gate, though I caught them exchanging knowing looks. "They're children," I said, my voice tight. "They just want to swim with their cousins." Victoria sighed, as if I were being particularly dense. "Children who live in subsidized housing areas often bring certain elements with them. I simply can't risk it. What if the Hendersons next door saw? They're on the country club board, you know." The words hit like a physical blow. We didn't live in subsidized housing, not that there would have been anything wrong if we did. Pine Grove was a perfectly respectable middle-class neighborhood. Yes, it wasn't as luxurious as Somerset Heights, but it was where we could afford to buy a home on Michael's teacher's salary and my nurse's income. "Mommy," Emma whispered, tears welling in her eyes, "I promise I took a shower. I'm clean." My heart shattered. Before I could respond, Victoria's sharp voice cut through the air. "Oh, for heaven's sake, don't start crying. This is exactly what I mean. Proper children know how to compose themselves." That was it. I'd endured years of Victoria's subtle jabs, her constant reminders that I wasn't good enough for her son, her disapproving looks at our choice to live within our means rather than accept her offers of help that came with suffocating strings attached. But this, watching my daughter think she wasn't clean enough to swim in her grandmother's pool, this was the final straw. "Come on, kids," I said, squeezing Emma's hand. "We're going home." "But Mommy," Lucas protested, "I wanted to show Cousin Tyler my new diving toy." "Not today, sweetheart." I turned to Victoria, who was already scrolling through her phone as if we'd ceased to exist. "And not ever again." She glanced up, eyebrows raised. "Don't be so sensitive, Sarah. I'm just trying to maintain certain standards. You understand, don't you?" I didn't respond. Instead, I guided my children back through the house, past the family photos where they were conspicuously absent, past the luxurious living room where they'd never been allowed to sit on the white furniture, past all the symbols of wealth that Victoria wielded like weapons. Emma cried silently in the back seat all the way home. Lucas kept asking why Grandma didn't want them to swim, each question like a knife to my heart. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white, trying to figure out how to explain classism to children who still believed in the tooth fairy. When we pulled into our driveway, our modest home never looked more beautiful to me. The flower beds might not be professionally landscaped like Victoria's, and our yard might be a bit overgrown in places, but it was filled with love, laughter, and acceptance. "Mommy?" Emma's small voice came from the back seat. "Are we dirty because we live here?" I turned around, meeting my daughter's tear-stained face. "No, baby, we're not dirty at all. Grandma just has some wrong ideas about what makes people special." "Then why won't she let us swim?" I took a deep breath, choosing my words carefully. Sometimes people think having more money makes them better than others. But they're wrong. What makes people special is how kind they are, how they treat others, how hard they work, not where they live or what they own. Later that night, after the kids were in bed, I sat on our back porch staring at our small yard. The summer stretched ahead of us, long and hot, with no pool access in sight. The community pool was closed for renovations, and our neighborhood didn't have the fancy amenities that Somerset Heights boasted. My phone buzzed with a text from Michael, who was away at a teaching conference. Mom called. Said you overreacted about the pool thing. Everything okay? I looked at the message for a long time, thinking about all the times I'd swallowed my pride, all the times I'd let Victoria's subtle cruelty slide for the sake of family peace. Not anymore. This summer was going to be different. I just didn't know how yet. What I did know was that somehow, some way, I was going to make sure my children never felt less than again, especially not in their own family. As I watched the sunset paint our humble backyard in shades of gold, an idea began to take shape. Victoria thought our neighborhood wasn't good enough for her precious pool. Well, maybe it was time to show her exactly what Pine Grove was capable of. The idea came to me during my night shift at the hospital. I was taking my break in the staff room, scrolling through local community Facebook groups when I saw it. Pine Grove Neighborhood Association meeting, tomorrow 7 p.m., all welcome. I'd never attended a meeting before, always too busy with work and the kids. But now, fueled by determination and 3 cups of coffee, I knew exactly what I needed to do. The next evening, I walked into the community center, surprised to find it packed with familiar faces. Our neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez, waved me over to an empty seat beside her. Sarah. First time at a meeting? I nodded, settling in next to her. I have an idea I want to propose. The meeting started with the usual neighborhood business, landscaping updates, upcoming events, budget discussions. When they opened the floor for new proposals, I raised my hand, heart pounding. The floor recognizes Sarah Mitchell, the association president announced. Standing up, I took a deep breath. I want to propose a community pool project for Pine Grove. The room went quiet. Then Mrs. Rodriguez spoke up. A pool? That would be wonderful for the children, but the cost. I've done some research, I said, pulling out the notes I prepared during my breaks. Several nearby communities have successfully funded pools through a combination of fundraising, municipal grants, and community involvement. Pine Grove has over 200 families. If we work together. What happened next surprised me. People didn't just listen, they got excited. Mr. Chen, a retired contractor, offered to help with the planning. Mrs. Rodriguez, who ran a successful catering business, suggested a series of fundraising dinners. Even teenagers in the room started brainstorming social media campaigns. By the end of the meeting, we had a committee formed and a plan in motion. The president dubbed it Project Splash, and suddenly, my small idea of proving Victoria wrong had transformed into something bigger, something that could bring our entire community together. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. During the day, I worked my hospital shifts. In the evenings, I attended committee meetings, wrote grant proposals, and coordinated with local businesses for sponsorship. Emma and Lucas threw themselves into helping, setting up a lemonade stand with their friends to raise money for their pool. Word spread quickly through Pine Grove. The local hardware store offered materials at cost. A landscaping company run by one of our residents volunteered equipment. The high school swim team organized a fundraising carnival. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. 3 weeks into our campaign, Victoria showed up at our door, unannounced. I heard about your little project, she said, stepping into our living room without waiting for an invitation. Her eyes swept critically over our modest furniture. Really, Sarah, this is becoming embarrassing. I continued folding laundry, refusing to let her intimidate me. What's embarrassing about a community coming together to build something for their children? She sighed, pulling out her checkbook. How much will it take to end this nonsense? I'll write you a check right now if you'll drop this ridiculous plan. The children can swim at my pool, occasionally, under proper supervision, of course. I looked at the checkbook in her manicured hands, thinking about Emma's tears, about Lucas's confusion, about all the other children in Pine Grove who deserved a place to swim without feeling judged. No thank you, Victoria, I said firmly. We don't need your money. Her face flushed. Don't be foolish. You'll never raise enough money in this neighborhood. Know your place, Sarah. Just then, Emma came running in from the backyard, her face glowing with excitement. Mom. Mrs. Rodriguez's dinner raised over $2,000. And guess what? The mayor's office called. They are matching all our fundraising. Victoria's mouth fell open as Emma continued, not even noticing her grandmother's presence. And Tyra's mom called. She wants to know if they can come to the opening. She says Somerset Heights pool is always so boring. No one ever talks to each other there. I watched Victoria's face turn an interesting shade of red. Without another word, she turned and left, her designer heels clicking angrily on our walkway. That evening, as I tucked Emma into bed, she asked, "Mom, why was Grandma so angry about our pool?" I sat on the edge of her bed, smoothing her hair. Sometimes, sweetheart, people get upset when things don't go the way they expect. But you know what's amazing? How our whole neighborhood is working together. That's worth more than any fancy pool. She smiled, hugging her stuffed dolphin. I like our neighborhood. Everyone knows each other. At Grandma's, nobody even smiles. The next day, I received a series of texts from my sisters-in-law. Apparently, Victoria had been ranting about our inappropriate behavior at her weekly tennis club lunch. But instead of the usual sympathetic responses, her friends had been intrigued. Several asked for details about our community project. One even offered to have her husband's construction company look at our plans. Jennifer, my younger sister-in-law, called me directly. "Sarah, I've never seen Mom so flustered, but I think what you're doing is incredible. The kids keep asking when they can come visit their cousin's new pool." Really? I hadn't expected support from that quarter. Really, and I might have signed up to help with the fundraising carnival. If that's okay. I sat down, surprised by the emotion welling up in my throat. Of course it's okay. As June turned to July, our project gained momentum. Local news picked up the story, impressed by how our modest neighborhood had pulled together. Donations poured in, not just from Pine Grove residents but from surrounding communities who loved the idea of a pool built by the people, for the people. The children of Pine Grove became the project's biggest champions. They held car washes, bake sales, and mini concerts. Emma and her friends started a pool penny drive, collecting spare change from every house in the neighborhood. Lucas and his kindergarten class made posters that now hung in shop windows all over town. One evening, as I sat at our kitchen table reviewing construction bids, Michael came home from his teaching conference. He'd been supportive from afar, but hadn't seen the transformation in person. "Sarah," he said, looking at the plans spread across the table, "this is incredible. The whole town's talking about it." I looked up at my husband, seeing the pride in his eyes. It's not just me, it's everyone. Pine Grove isn't just a neighborhood anymore. It's a community. He sat down beside me, taking my hand. "Mom called me every day of the conference, complaining about how you're undermining the social structure or something." He grinned. I told her maybe the social structure needed some undermining. I squeezed his hand, grateful for his support. "Think she'll ever come around?" He shrugged. "Maybe, maybe not. But our kids are learning something more valuable than her approval. They're learning that you don't have to be rich to make something amazing happen. You just need people who care." Looking out our kitchen window at the sunset, I could see Emma and Lucas playing with neighborhood kids in our backyard. They were planning their first swim in the new pool, even though construction hadn't even started yet. Their laughter floated through the evening air, free and unself-conscious, untainted by Victoria's judgment. This wasn't just about proving my mother-in-law wrong anymore. It was about showing our children, all the children of Pine Grove, that their worth wasn't measured by their address or their grandmother's approval. It was about building something that would bring joy and unity to our community for years to come. As I watched the children play, I thought about Victoria's pristine, lonely pool where children had to mind their manners and worry about getting the furniture wet. Our pool would be different. It would be filled with laughter, splashing, and the sound of families enjoying summer together. The construction would begin next week, but in many ways, we'd already built something more valuable than any pool. We'd built a community where everyone belonged, regardless of their zip code or bank balance. And that was worth more than all the Somerset Heights swimming pools combined. The grand opening of the Pine Grove Community Pool was scheduled for the first Saturday in August. The weather forecast promised a perfect summer day, sunny and hot, ideal for swimming. Standing at the edge of the completed pool that morning, I could hardly believe what our community had accomplished in just 2 months. The pool was beautiful, not with the cold perfection of Victoria's backyard, but with the warmth of something created by love and determination. Local artists had painted bright murals on the surrounding walls. The landscaping, done by volunteers, featured native plants and flowers. Children's artwork decorated the fence panels, protected by a weatherproof coating. "Mom, Mom," Emma called, running toward me in her new swimsuit, another Target special, but this time worn with pride. "When can we get in?" "Soon, sweetheart. We just need to wait for the mayor's speech." The crowd was gathering, not just Pine Grove residents, but people from all over town. News cameras were set up near the podium. Our story had caught the media's attention. The working-class neighborhood that built its own pool. The community that refused to be defined by its income level. I spotted Jennifer and Dion arriving with their children, without Victoria. My nieces and nephews ran to hug Emma and Lucas, excitedly comparing swimsuits and pool toys. "Sarah," Jennifer pulled me aside. "Mom's furious. She's been calling everyone she knows, trying to get people to boycott the opening." But, she smiled, I think it backfired. Half her tennis club is here. I looked around, and sure enough, I recognized several elegantly dressed women who usually frequented Victoria's social circle. They were mingling with Pine Grove residents, admiring the mosaic tiles local artists had installed around the pool's edge. The mayor stepped up to the podium, and the crowd fell quiet. "Today," she began, "we're celebrating more than just a new pool. We're celebrating what happens when a community believes in itself." As she spoke, I noticed a commotion at the entrance. Victoria had arrived, looking like she'd stepped out of a country club magazine in her designer sundress. But instead of her usual superior expression, she looked uncertain, almost lost. The mayor finished her speech, and the moment everyone had been waiting for arrived. "And now," she announced, "I invite the children of Pine Grove to take the first swim." Kids streamed toward the pool, laughing and shouting. Emma and Lucas looked at me questioningly. "Go on," I nodded, smiling. They jumped in with their cousins, their joy echoing across the water. Victoria made her way toward me, watching the scene with an unreadable expression. "This," she gestured at the pool, "the crowd, the celebration, this isn't what I expected." "What did you expect, Victoria?" She was quiet for a moment, watching her grandchildren play together in the clear water. "I don't know. Something less. This is," she struggled with the words, "this is quite impressive." Coming from Victoria, it was practically a standing ovation. "The children seem so happy," she continued, almost to herself. "Even the Hendersons' grandchildren are here." She pointed to where the country club board member's family was setting up their pool chairs. "Everyone's welcome here," I said simply. "That's the whole point." Victoria turned to me, and for the first time, I saw something different in her eyes. Not quite approval, but perhaps understanding. "Sarah, I may have been hasty in my judgment." "May have been," she sighed. "Fine. I was wrong. About the neighborhood. About you. About a lot of things." Before I could respond, Emma's voice rang out across the pool. "Grandma, come see the mural I helped paint." Victoria hesitated, looking down at her expensive dress. I held out a spare pool chair I'd brought. "You can sit here. The cushions are waterproof." A small smile, a real one, not her usual social facade, flickered across her face. "Perhaps I will." Throughout the afternoon, I watched as Victoria slowly, almost imperceptibly, began to relax. She accepted a hot dog from Mrs. Rodriguez's grill station, something I'd never seen her do before. She complimented Mr. Chen on the pool's design. She even laughed, genuinely laughed, when Lucas showed her how he could splash. As the sun began to set, families started packing up their things, children wrapped in towels, tired but happy. Victoria lingered, watching Emma teach her cousins the swimming strokes she'd learned during the community's pre-opening lessons. "Sarah," she said quietly, "would it be all right if I came back sometimes? With the children?" I looked at her, this woman who had caused so much hurt, now asking permission to use the pool she'd once deemed beneath her. "Like I said, Victoria, everyone's welcome here. But there are rules." She raised an eyebrow. "No judgment. No comments about where people live or what they wear. This is a place for family, all family." She nodded slowly. I think I can learn to do that." Later that night, after the excitement had died down and the kids were in bed, I sat by the pool with Michael, our feet dangling in the water. Mom called me, he said. She actually apologized. I nearly fell over. I laughed. It's a start. You did this, he said, squeezing my hand. You turned her cruelty into something beautiful for the whole community. But he was wrong. We did this, I corrected. All of us, Pine Grove, did this. The pool lights cast a gentle glow on the water, and in its reflection, I could see the truth of what we created. Not just a place to swim, but a space where barriers broke down, where zip codes didn't matter, where community meant more than status. Victoria's pool might still be more expensive, more exclusive, more prestigious, but ours was filled with something her money couldn't buy: the laughter of children who knew they belonged, the pride of a community that had built something together, and the triumph of proving that the best things in life aren't about what you have, but who you share it with. That summer changed everything, not just for my family, but for all of Pine Grove. And somewhere along the way, it changed Victoria too. She never became a different person entirely. She still wore designer clothes to the pool and occasionally made comments about the proper way to arrange pool furniture, but she learned to see value in things she once dismissed. And my children? They learned something far more valuable than how to swim. They learned that with determination, community, and love, you can build something beautiful, even in a poor neighborhood. The Pine Grove Community Pool became known as the heart of our neighborhood, a symbol of what ordinary people can achieve when they refuse to be defined by someone else's standards. And every time I hear children's laughter echoing across the water, I smile, knowing that sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's proving that love and community can build something greater than prejudice ever could.